Imagine this. Two U.S. presidents, Lincoln and Kennedy, born a century apart, both assassinated under eerily similar circumstances. Or how about a shipwrecked vessel named the Titan, described in a novel 14 years before the real-life sinking of the Titanic? History is filled with stories that seem too strange to be real. Some planned, some accidental, but all intertwined in ways we can't explain. Today, we're diving into the realm of the extraordinary, unbelievable historical coincidences that will leave you questioning reality itself. Starting off at number 10. Did you know two of America's most famous presidents, Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, share some eerie coincidences? It's almost like history repeating itself. First, both Lincoln and Kennedy were elected exactly 100 years apart. Lincoln in 1860 and Kennedy in 1960. Both faced fierce battles over civil rights during their presidencies. Lincoln ended slavery, while Kennedy pushed for equal rights during the civil rights movement. Now, here's where it gets weirder. Both men were tragically shot in the back of the head on a Friday while sitting beside their wives. Lincoln was in Ford's Theater, and Kennedy, get this, was riding in a car made by Ford. The coincidences continue. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy, and Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Spooky, right? And both of their assassins, John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, are remembered for 3 names each. But that's not all. Both assassins were killed before going to trial. Even stranger, Lincoln was shot in a theater, and his assassin fled to a warehouse. Kennedy was shot from a warehouse, and his assassin fled to a theater. What does it all mean? Some say it's just a series of coincidences, but it sure makes you wonder how these two presidents are forever linked in the strangest ways. Could it be fate, or just a mind-boggling historical quirk? Coming up next, at number 9, imagine this. 14 years before the Titanic sank, a novel titled The Wreck of the Titan hit the shelves. Written by Morgan Robertson in 1898, this fictional book eerily predicted one of history's greatest maritime disasters. Here's where it gets spooky. The details between the fictional Titan and the real-life Titanic are almost identical. Both were considered unsinkable, massive luxury liners. Both carried too few lifeboats for the number of passengers, and both met their fates by striking an iceberg in the North Atlantic. The Titan sank in April, just like the Titanic did in 1912. The similarities are almost too strange to be a coincidence, but it doesn't stop there. The size of the ships? Almost identical. The Titan was 800 feet long, the Titanic 882 feet. The Titan traveled at 25 knots, and the Titanic at 22.5. In both stories, the iceberg is hit at night, dooming the ships and most of their passengers. Was this just an incredible prediction, or is it one of those unexplainable historical coincidences that leave you wondering about fate? Some call it eerie foresight, others a bizarre twist of fate. Whatever the case, the Titan and Titanic connection remains one of history's strangest mysteries. Could there be more to the story than just fiction, or was it all a bizarre coincidence written in the pages of time? What do you think? Up next, at number 8, imagine meeting someone who looks just like you, shares your name, and even has the same life story. That's exactly what happened to King Umberto I of Italy in 1900, a bizarre coincidence that remains one of the most intriguing in history. While dining at a restaurant in the city of Monza, the king noticed something strange. The restaurant owner looked eerily like him. Out of curiosity, King Umberto called him over and started asking questions. To everyone's amazement, the two men shared the exact same birthday, March 14th, 1844. But it didn't stop there. They had both been born in the same city, Turin. They both had wives with the same name, Margherita. And if that's not strange enough, the restaurant owner had opened his establishment on the exact same day that King Umberto was crowned as king. This uncanny meeting left both men stunned, but the coincidence took a darker turn. On July 29th, 1900, the restaurant owner was tragically killed in an accident. Just hours later, on the very same day, King Umberto I was assassinated. Two men with parallel lives, meeting by chance, and then sharing a tragic end on the same day. Coincidence, or something more mysterious? The strange case of King Umberto I will forever leave us wondering if fate had a hand in their eerie connection. Next up, at number 7, in 1838, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a seemingly fictional tale called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. It's a wild adventure story, filled with shipwrecks, survival, and even cannibalism. But here's where it gets eerie. In Poe's story, after a shipwreck, the survivors are stranded on a lifeboat and face starvation. In desperation, they draw straws to decide who will be sacrificed so the others can survive. The unlucky victim? A cabin boy named Richard Parker. Now, fast forward to 1884, nearly 50 years later. A real shipwreck occurs. The yacht Mignonette is stranded in the South Atlantic with 4 men on board. Facing starvation, the crew makes the same horrific decision. They choose to sacrifice the youngest among them. His name? Richard Parker. How could Poe have possibly written about this real-life tragedy almost 50 years before it actually happened? Was it just a coincidence, or something more mysterious? Some people say it's one of the most mind-boggling examples of time travel in literature, while others chalk it up to pure chance. Either way, the tale of Richard Parker, both fictional and real, continues to haunt readers and historians alike. Was Edgar Allan Poe tapping into the future, or did he simply have a stroke of eerie luck? Now coming up next, at number 6, did you know that a small, seemingly random detail may have foreshadowed one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century? Let's talk about the strange coincidence involving Archduke Franz Ferdinand and a license plate. It's June 28, 1914, and Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, is visiting Sarajevo. This day ends in tragedy as he and his wife are assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a moment that sets off a chain reaction, leading directly to World War I. But here's the eerie part. The car they were riding in had a license plate with the number Erie 118. At first glance, it seems like just another plate, but when World War I finally ended in 1918, people began to notice something odd. Take a closer look at that license plate. A could be interpreted as armistice, and 118 resembles the date November 11th, 1918, the exact day the armistice was signed, bringing an end to the war. Was it a bizarre coincidence or a strange twist of fate? No one knows, but this curious detail leaves a lot of people wondering if history was subtly hinted at long before the world ever saw it coming. What do you think? Some say it's nothing more than a quirky coincidence, while others find it to be an uncanny reminder of how history sometimes weaves strange patterns we don't notice until much later. Could this license plate have been a symbol of destiny? Halfway there, at number 5. Did you know that two of America's founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, shared an eerie connection in death? These two men, once allies and then fierce political rivals, helped shape the birth of the United States. But their lives intertwined in one of history's strangest coincidences. Both Jefferson and Adams died on the exact same day, July 4th, 1926, exactly 50 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson, the author of that very document, passed away at his home in Monticello during the morning hours. But that's not all. Hours later, 500 miles away in Quincy, Massachusetts, John Adams took his last breath. Adams's final words were, "Thomas Jefferson still survives," not knowing his old friend had already passed away just hours earlier. It's almost as if fate had a hand in their departure. Two of America's most influential founding fathers, who had once stood shoulder to shoulder for independence, left this world on the 50th anniversary of the nation's birth. Was it pure coincidence, or was something greater at play? We may never know, but this mysterious timing has made their deaths one of the most famous and intriguing coincidences in American history. Next up, at number 4, twins are always special, right? But imagine this. Twin brothers, born in completely different places, but connected by an unbelievable twist of fate. It was the early 1900s when two baby boys were born, not to the same family, not even in the same country. One was born in Ohio, the other in Italy. You might think they had nothing in common, right? Wrong. These two boys were destined to share much more than a birthday. They grew up worlds apart, but here's the twist. They lived eerily similar lives. Both had a passion for sports, both became professional athletes, and shockingly, both became Olympic gold medalists. But wait, it gets weirder. When they eventually found out about each other, they realized they not only shared the same talents and successes, but also the same exact name. Coincidence or something more? So what are the chances of two identical lives, separated by distance, being intertwined by fate? Are we really just looking at a wild coincidence? Up next, at number 3, what are the chances that one of the most famous writers in history would be born and die under the same cosmic spectacle? Mark Twain, author of classics like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, wasn't just a master of words. He had a strange connection to something far beyond our world, Halley's Comet. The comet only passes Earth once every 75 to 76 years, but its timing with Twain's life is nothing short of astonishing. Twain was born in 1835, the same year Halley's Comet blazed through the sky. He even predicted that his life would be tied to the comet, saying, "I came in with Halley's Comet, and I expect to go out with it." And incredibly, Twain was right. On April 21st, 1910, the day after Halley's Comet made its closest approach to Earth, Twain passed away, just as he had predicted. Born with Halley's Comet and gone with it. A coincidence? Fate? Or perhaps a story even Twain himself couldn't have imagined? Mark Twain and Halley's Comet, a cosmic coincidence that has fascinated generations and remains one of history's strangest connections between a man and the universe. Up next, at number 2, did you know that one of the the most famous engineering marvels in the U.S., the Hoover Dam, is linked to a chilling coincidence. The dam, which tamed the mighty Colorado River, was built during the Great Depression, offering jobs and hope. But it also brought tragedy. Construction began in 1931, and over the years, nearly 100 workers lost their lives building this colossal structure. But the most eerie part? The first person to die during the dam's construction was a surveyor named J.G. Tierney on December 20th, 1922. Fast forward 13 years to the day, December 20th, 1935, and the last man to die working on the dam was none other than J.G. Tierney's own son, Patrick Tierney. Father and son both met their end working on the same project, on the exact same date, years apart. A tragic family connection, or a bizarre twist of fate. This strange coincidence haunts the legacy of the Hoover Dam, reminding us that even in moments of triumph, there can be eerie shadows cast. And finally, at number 1, in 1066, a celestial event struck fear into the hearts of many, the appearance of Halley's Comet. This fiery streak in the sky was seen as an omen, a sign that something big was about to happen. And it did. Just months later, one of the most famous battles in history took place, the Battle of Hastings. Imagine the scene, William the Conqueror preparing his Norman forces to invade England, while King Harold II scrambled to defend his throne. As both leaders prepared for war, the people of England looked to the skies and saw Halley's Comet blazing above. In those times, comets were often thought to foretell disaster or the fall of kings. Could the comet have predicted Harold's fate? On October 14th, 1066, Harold's army faced William's Norman forces at Hastings. It was a brutal battle, and by the end of the day, Harold was dead, struck down by an arrow, according to legend. William claimed victory and became the first Norman king of England. The Battle of Hastings changed the course of English history forever. Was Halley's Comet a mere coincidence, or did it foreshadow Harold's downfall? Many of William's supporters believed the comet was a divine signal, granting them victory. Even the famous Bayeux Tapestry, which depicts the events leading to the battle, shows Halley's Comet as a terrifying omen. So, was this cosmic event just a random occurrence, or did it truly play a role in shaping the destiny of a nation? The eerie timing of Halley's Comet with one of history's most pivotal battles is one coincidence that still fascinates us today.